Hey everyone, this is Christopher. This week we decided to do something just a little different. Instead of releasing a regularly scheduled main pod episode, we decided to release a bonus episode from the Lot 1 Podcast After Show. These episodes are awesome. Essentially, they are a bonus episode to the main episode. The after show is about 20 to 45 minutes, depends on the guest, and they're a little bit more laid back. We get to know the people a little bit better. It's, hair down, get a glass of whiskey, and just hang out. And also, sometimes me and Deji have extra questions that we had in the main pod that we didn't have time to get to. So we focus on them in the after show. From all of us here at the Lot 1 Podcast, thank you for your support. Enjoy this amazing bonus episode from the Lot 1 Podcast After Show. Thank you.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Lot 1 Podcast After Show. My name is Deji Bancole.
And I am Christopher Henley.
Today, we continued the conversation with Ryan O'Quinn about funding your first movie, first look deals, and destroying your keyboard. Yeah, so let's listen in here. You're about to go off on a rocket ship here. Anyway,
the after show is when it gets real, guys.
Yeah, exactly. Before wasn't. Yeah.
Before it was basically like a master class, but this is where the lights get dim. If you'll notice, my cool colored lights have come on now.
He's very cool.
JG let his hair down.
Yeah, my hair is basically off.
Now that it's the after show, I think it's valuable to let your listeners and viewers know how you cannot handle your drink, Deji. Let's get into that.
Let's start off with that.
Listener, the idea was for us to stand up and stretch our legs and go right back in, but the last 15 minutes we've waited for this dude to clean up his keyboard because he can't hold a soda for some reason. I
can't, throw him under the bus.
When I get my hands on a soda, it's like have you ever tried to hold on to air? It goes right through your finger. It's hard. Do
you have Geek Squad on speed dial? Because
I'm actually, I don't know if you know this or not, but this podcast studio is in the back of a Geek Squad because I need them to be here.
I've never seen anybody spill a drink for 5 minutes, but somehow you managed to.
What I really like to do is I like to drag it out a little bit. People have these knocked over drinks.
But you and I were trying to have a conversation offline,
and he just ruined it.
This is what I'm hearing. Like from his, he's just slamming the keyboard.
How rude to our guest!
It is great. And another thing, I'm half the blame here is to Trader Joe's. We can't leave them at. Their hands aren't cleaning this. Listen.
Let me show you something.
Yeah.
This is going to be.
Is it a cozy?
This is partially a teaching podcast. Look, watch what I do.
Oh, he took a drink.
You know what? Do you know why? You know why that happened is because Topo Chico trained you how to drink that drink.
Yep, I'm sure they did.
So true. We have to give a shout out. They sure did. But so far, so good. That said, I'm probably gonna do the same thing. But I'm just glad you're in your studio and not in mine right now.
Yeah, exactly. It's good. It's great.
Please keep roasting him. I'm enjoying this a little too.
Yeah. So I do have a question, and this is the question that this is the $100 million question. How do you get $100 million as a producer?
Well, is this a serious question?
No, this is a serious question. Not necessarily $100 million, but like I feel like a lot of times, if you're a newer production company, you want to start making things and you want to get out of your backyard with your friends and actually start making things that are going to get seen by audiences.
You do need money, and outside of a studio system or a bigger production entity, it's hard to do. So rip from the headlines of our company, and we've been in the business. I've been in the business, like I said, 27 years, mostly as an actor, the last 9 years as a production company. But the fall of 2023, 8.5 years into what we're trying to build here, we got a first look deal with a studio. First look deal is our company is still an autonomous independent production company that I own, my wife and I own. And so we have the capacity to keep doing what we've been doing at the independent level, but we have the resources and the backing of a studio, in this case, STX Entertainment. And they tasked us with and provided us with resources in the terms of capital and development funding and things like that to source and curate and find content within a specific vertical. In our case, it's faith and family content, but they said, hey, we want you to keep doing what you're doing. We want you to keep the lights on. We're going to enter into a deal with you wherein we will pay you to develop content that fits within this lane and this category, with the understanding that you will give us first right of refusal. In our case, our budgets went from $2 to $7 million on average was kind of the sweet spot. We figured if we were, for the last decade or so, if we were below $2 million, it's kind of difficult. It's hard to get a recognizable name in there. North of $7 million, you have to start spending some real P&A for people to see that. P&A meaning, your marketing dollars, marketing budget. So with the resources and the backing of the studio and our P&A deal, it really does give us the ability to start looking at those bigger budgets. So, $100 million, maybe not, but maybe, depending on the package. So now, more than ever, this startup independent film production company has a big brother partner that has said to us, we love what you're doing. We think you are valuable within this particular genre of the industry, and we want to come alongside you to help you keep those doors on, keep those folks employed, and when you find that content that really makes sense for us to take out, bring it to us first, and then they have the capacity to say yes or no. So built into the language of this is important for definition and edification for your listeners, built into the language of the first look deal, if they say no, we have the ability to go somewhere else with that content, but we have to offer them the first right of refusal.
Is that sort of how you develop it into something that another investor would be interested in, like sort of jumping on board with? Or
yeah, and there's a few ways to skin that cat, and it really at this point depends on what the studio wants to do and how they want to structure things. There has been instances where studios will look for co-fi partnerships, and they will allow outside dollars, meaning outside of the studio system, outside investors, independent investors. Like many other production companies, we have stayed afloat with the prior to this, had stayed in business with high net wealth individuals that were very interested in the kind of movies that we were telling. The independent production company game, and again, I'm preaching to the choir here, but it's cyclical and it's hard to do and got old after a while. But the routine is you spend a year raising money to make a movie, you spend a year shooting that movie. Then you spend a year raising money to make a movie, and then you spend a year shooting that movie. The harvest season and fallow season of what we're doing is a roller coaster ride, because you're not constantly have 3 movies in the pipeline for the most part that are, you're constantly working, where the next one's coming from. At the independent level, for the most part, you're just, and everybody's gone through it, give or take. Orson Welles famously said, I spend 10% of my time making great movies and 90% of my time raising money to make great movies. So it's kind of what we do in this game, but it has certainly, in our case, alleviated a ton of pressure to find those resources to keep doing what we're doing, particularly in the development phase of things. We, as producers, you guys know this, but there's a lot of time. Most of our time is not spent on a movie set. We're spending, this year, we will have spent, 7 weeks total shooting movies. The other, 40 some weeks out of the year, we're running around and we're developing and we're finding content and we're, optioning IP and we're giving notes on script rewrites. And so a lot of that is not spent on a movie set, but it certainly helps alleviate those downtimes when we're not actively in production and actively getting a weekly paycheck.
Do you have a goal for you guys' company? Like, is the goal to every year do X amount? Is the goal to like starting, was it to every year we want to be in production at least so that pipeline works? Or
Yeah. So the goal at first was one film a year, which, by the way, is a lofty undertaking when you first start, right? It's I often say it's an act of God. Just about all the stars have to align. It's a miracle any movie ever sees the light of day. Honestly, I mean, that's just, again, the harsh reality of this crazy business that we've chosen. Will Rogers infamously said, "You have to be certifiable to be in this business."
Yeah.
So if your listeners have gotten this far, they are committed, right? So I think we're talking to the right people. So just know that you're among, the inmates are running the asylum at this point.
Right,
so you're in good company, listener. But yeah, so the goal was to do one film per year and to get that out into the marketplace. Best case scenario, a theatrical release that rolls into a streaming. Years ago, and I'm only talking 6 or 7 years ago, the outcome of your box office for a domestic theatrical release would dictate how much money you got in streaming. Nowadays, everything's kind of on its ear. During COVID, especially, my wife and I spoke to some grad students, film grad students, and we, by way of Zoom, we spoke a couple times at film schools. And one particular marketing group asked the question, "Where do you see the future of the industry going in terms of distribution?" And I said, "Oh, great, I've got the answer." And so I saw 30 little boxes lean in, ready to take notes. And I said, "Go to deadline.com and hit refresh about every 5 minutes, because anybody who tells you they know exactly what's happening in distribution are fooling themselves. It's such a wild west in a weird way. Netflix has a whole new regime change, recently, with Dan Lin coming into the picture and restructuring there. And so just every little bit, studios will have a regime change that have a new focus. This past summer, we've seen everything that's happening with Skydance and Paramount and kind of everything that's going on there, which, by the way, is another, for what it's worth, moment from me to you. I encourage all of your listeners to read the trades every single day. I mean, I know it's a time suck. Block out the calendar for the first hour, or go to the dailies, which I love, dailies.com or whatever, and read the headlines, because that's extremely important. That's our newspaper. That's our business. You have to know who's doing what and who the movers and shakers are, who's out, who's no longer at the agencies and studios. And it really does make a difference when you're in these conversations. It's kind of the make or break moment when people gauge how much you really know about this industry. So, there's regime changes and shift changes all the time. Nowadays, our goal is 3. If we can do 3 pictures a year and be in post on one while we're in distribution on another, while we're in pre on the next one, that can keep us doing what we're doing. So maybe we'll work our way up from there, but that's the goal right now.
So where do you get your ideas from? I remember you said before that you have 30 people submitting every week.
Yeah, we have about 30 blind submissions that just come into the info at email address, just from people who know of us or or they're just sending to everybody. I don't know, just people that we don't know. Give or take about 30 or so a week. I've been in the business, like I said, for over 25 years. And so in my genre of the business, which is family and faith adjacent entertainment, there's a handful of people who are doing it well. So my colleagues in the business are partners like the Kingdom Story Company and the Wonder Project and Sony Affirm, and there's people who are in the same genre that I'm in. And so, give or take, there's about 5 or 6 of us who have the capacity to greenlight a picture and get it out into the marketplace. So the people who have those kinds of stories know how to find us by way of agents or through studio connections. And so, it is hopefully not snooty, and I certainly don't want this to come across elitist, but it's an important piece of information for your listeners, in that if you know how to get to me, then you have a way better chance of actually getting something moving. So it's again that, like we were talking about on the main podcast, it's that 2 degrees of separation. The longer you stay in this business, I said it before, but it's worth repeating. The Venn diagrams and the overlapping of who knows whom gets way smaller, and so you're all of a sudden 1 degree of separation from somebody who can actually greenlight a picture, as opposed to just blind submitting something that will never get opened.
Maybe you don't know, but which one do you prefer? Do you prefer through connection submissions or the blinds? Like which one turns a, like not a profit, but a better
I
return?
rarely ever even open blind submissions. There's too much content out there through people that I already know, like, and trust. And I would argue that in this business more than any other, because it is that foxhole that we talked about, you have to be in business with people that you know, like, and trust. And that's a big hurdle in any business. So I will always err on the side of people that I know who have a great track record in sourcing great content. I have producers that are my go-to guys where I reach out and say, hey, what are you working on that's not already tied up? And inevitably, the good producers have a pipeline of content of, oh, I've got this, and this. So there's a nearly limitless plethora of content. And now the onus is on me to be able to grab that, identify that, have my team go, okay, let us tie this up by way of option or whatever the case may be. Even if it's a 6 months option, give us the opportunity to run this to ground to see if there's something there. So, you get into a situation where you're constantly looking for content, but you also have a good pipeline of content, more often than not coming from the same people. And by the way, it happens at the agency level as well. Once you get those relationships with the 3-letter agencies that are doing what they do best, you can just source all of your content from the people who are at the top of their game.
The Lot 1 podcast is brought to you by the Tourist Hat Coffee Company. You know what keeps me running on those long film sets, Stagey?
What's that, Chris?
Coffee. And you know what's the worst thing ever?
A swift kick in the pants.
No, bad coffee. So that's why I choose Tourist Hat Coffee Company's high quality coffee beans. Their artisan roasted single origin coffee and handcrafted blends are so much better than those stale stuff you get from those other brands.
Yeah, those things are bad.
Tourist Hat Coffee Company's coffee is artisan roasted, micro roasted, single origin, and their small batch roaster that handcrafts their blends to maximize peak freshness upon delivery. Family owned and operated. What more could you ask for from a coffee company, Deji?
I literally can't think of anything else.
If you're still not sold, a portion of each purchase goes towards contributing to some of their favorite nonprofit organizations, such as Animation Dance Community, Seeds of Hope International, and Beautiful Gate Orphanage.
These guys are good.
Make Tourist Hat Coffee Company your new go-to quality coffee choice with our exclusive offer for you, the Lot 1 podcast listener.
Oh, listen up, guys.
First-time customers can use the code LOT1BOGO at checkout to receive 1 free bag of coffee when you buy 2. That's right, Deji, buy 2, get 1 free.
Whoa.
So head on over to touristhatcoffeecompany.com and use promo code LOT1BOGO at checkout. Again, that is LOT1 BOGO at checkout. Whether you work in the film industry or not and want a delicious cup of coffee, this is the perfect time to stock up on your favorite blends of coffee or try something new. I know I'll be brewing Tourist Hat on my sets moving forward, Deji. Again, that's promo code LOT1 BOGO, LOT1 BOGO at checkout to claim your buy 2, get 1 free. Terms and conditions apply. Tourist Hat, coffee that fuels your adventure.
How do you sort of, like, if you were to kind of go back and start over, how would you, knowing all the things you know now, like what would be the first thing that you would start to take on? What would be your first mode of action?
Well, after I surrounded myself with good people, which was a great question from Chris at the end of the last episode. But relationship cannot be stressed enough. Relationships are vital. One other piece of silly bumper sticker advice in this business especially is today's assistants are tomorrow's executive producers. As best you can, never burn a bridge, because you will see the same people on your way down that are on their way up. And there are so many stories in this town especially. But I am friends with people now who, at C-suite levels at the studio who were on a desk 20 years ago. And so the people who have stuck it out, make friends with and do life with the people that are also on the same trajectory as you are, because as it's a rising tides business that we're in, and as we all sort of matriculate up the ladder together. One of my roommates, when I first moved here, we went to undergrad together in Virginia, went to school at William and Mary in Virginia, and moved here together. Got a 2-bedroom apartment in West Hollywood, and tried to make heads or tail of this crazy city, knowing no one here. By the way, he's third in line at Sony now. Like it's a everybody's sort of work their way up the ladder, and the more people that stick with it, kind of work their way up. So I hope it's not too pie in the sky to say, Deji, make and harvest relationships with people that are going places. And so when you look up 3, 5, 8, 12 years from now, you go, of course I know Joe.
Yeah.
Let me just call him up.
Let me dig a little deeper in that. How do you find those people? How do you identify the people that are going to make it or are going to, outlast? Like what are some of the key things that you've noticed?
It's doing the work, and it's a small town, for better or worse. So there are no secrets in Hollywood. The people who are a-holes, quite honestly, you're going to find out about. You're going to know about. Even at the acting level, this is terrible. But since we're on the after show here, I'll tell you that one of the worst/best critiques I ever heard was an actor who had just done his scene. We're in this advanced acting class, and he had just done his scene, and he sits on the edge of the stage, and the instructor was giving him the post scene wrap up and giving notes and giving, here's what you could have done better and what you could have done different. He was just not willing to listen at all. And finally, out of frustration, he said to her, "You don't know me." And she said, and I quote, and here's the burn, "No, but I know 1,000 just like you."
Dang.
Bro, that cuts deep.
Yeah.
So putting that lens on and realizing that people figuratively get off the bus every single day here to try to make it, and people get back on the bus, air quotes, every single day to go back to wherever they came from. You've got to surround yourself with people who are doing it well and doing it at a level, getting into those film festivals, going to film festivals, as ridiculous as it is, supporting colleagues and friends. And as much as we all hate driving from the valley to Culver City to go to a dinky little play, or somebody's somebody's short film that they've spent their maxed out their credit cards doing, those things are important. And finding those people, they won't forget that. I've gone to way too many 99-seat theater plays that were just cringy, but you find your tribe at some point, and you look up and people have the capacity to greenlight your picture all of a sudden. And it's like, oh, maybe it was valuable 15 years ago to show up at your stupid short film in Pasadena.
One of my favorite things to do is actually, especially now that I'm out here in LA, because I was in Riverside for so long, is to meet up with like some of my actors from some of my productions, because we're small things, but it's like some of their connections, and some of them are great friends now too, like really good friends. Like I was a gaffer on a friend's short film that he crowdfunded right out of college, and I did it for free and stuff. But one of the actors out of that, I was just a gaffer, and he was the lead actor, and me and him are like super close now. Like he would just like we were like magnets on that set. Like we knew both of us were like, we could just see it in our eyes. We would make eye contact during like rough times when we're behind or whatever, and he knew it. So it's just really cool to have those types of things, and it's honestly really rewarding. And I've always been in the mindset of like, just because you don't text someone every single day, or you're not like able to contact, everyone has their own lives, right? Doesn't mean you still can't be friends and still can't like help each other out, or just go get coffee randomly. It's, when you're having like a life crisis or something big happens, did they reach out to you? Did they say happy birthday? Did they, call you just to catch up randomly? So I've always been a huge person in that boat anyways. So to hear you say that is great to confirm it.
So true. Again, I said it before, but in this business, work begets work. And real world example, one more time, we were doing a movie recently, and the DP, who had been on the picture for a year and a half in pre, had scouted the movie, showed up. They were 2 days away from principal photography. Weird turn of events. Got bitten by a tick, spawned into something. They found that he had a blockage in his heart because of he was in the hospital for one thing. Anyway, literally likely saved his life. But my point is, he couldn't start the movie, couldn't do the movie, and he had done all of this work. So we had to get a new DP. Happened to be in the same state where we were filming, had just finished a movie, and had 2 days of prep before starting a $22.5 million movie. Mm-hmm. In the midst of all that, our number 4 on the call sheet bailed. Not bailed, legitimate reasons, could not start the project. The DP, and this is my point about how you can transcend hierarchy. Like you as a guy, an actor on set, the blurred lines of quote hierarchy it's muddied when you're on set because it's that trench mentality, right? The DP says to the director, "Oh, by the way, this project that I just wrapped has a great actor. You would know him from," and he says who it is. "Let me call him up and see if he has availability right now because this is perfect for him." Dude came on with no notice and killed it. And it was just, to your point, it's the work beget moment of, oh, I know a guy, ...
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's how it happens,
Yep.
Yeah.
I've gotten hired
Crazy.
on a lot of sets because of that too. Isn't that right, Daisy?
100%.
Yeah.
Last minute, he was like, "Hey, you free tomorrow? Could you do it?" I'm like, "Yeah, let's do it."
Yep. And the willingness to say yes, man, again, so many stories of that speaks volumes. People won't drive across the freeway to help somebody move, but you better, if somebody wants you to hold a boom for a shoot for 8 hours on a Saturday, you might make a career out of that because they remember you.
And it's funny, we had a guest on recently who Mina found, and as I was looking at the name, I was like, this person looks so familiar, like random. I just, but something about it. And then I looked in my old email addresses, and it turns out that she was on the first movie I tried to make, in 2009.
You as a producer,
huh?
You as a producer?
As a producer, I tried to make this movie, it didn't go through, but she was there, and I remember that name. Yeah. And then 10 years later, she's on our podcast, and I'm just like, what, or 15 years later, I don't even know how long it was. And that was in Santa Cruz. We both lived in Santa Cruz at the time, and she now lives in LA, and it's so that networking is really important, I think,
very important.
And
absolutely.
I think the idea of going to, this is something I've been thinking about recently, is going to film festivals and just meeting new people that are actually in that are doing things, because I think that's a big thing, is that a lot of times you meet people out and about and they have ideas and they're trying to do stuff. And then you see them, a year or two later, and they're still trying to do that same thing that they were doing before. But if you get to go to these film festivals, maybe you'd be able to speak to this more, but these are the people who are actually doing it. They're putting
That's
their
exactly
work out,
right.
Yep. So
that's exactly what I was going to say. The good news is, for these networking opportunities like a film festival, is you're finding people who've actually done it. Years ago, I had a great conversation with a friend of mine who's an excellent filmmaker, and it's a small thing, but an important thing, in that there's a difference between people who talk about doing it and people who have done it. And the difference is, those who have done it actually did it. And again, that sounds weird and twisty, but think about that idea for a second. The people who have committed to doing it and actually have product out in the marketplace, whether it's a film festival or somewhere, they actually saw it through and they actually did it. So that's valuable.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've heard that so many times of like, especially because we've only recently started doing feature films, like full length features. We did a lot of shorts, a really big web series and stuff like that. But like the idea that like you kind of get taken more seriously if you've done a feature, even if it's not like a great feature. Like the act of doing it and being able to say, I did this. You put in the work, you did it, and something came out of it is just kind of a big step for the industry.
And you learn so much. I mean, regardless of the outcome, just the idea of going through the whole process from inception through whatever semblance of distribution there is, like you just, I mean, it's a film school education in the year that it takes you to do that,
Yeah, that's networking is extremely important. Unfortunately, we are out of time again, but yeah, it was really awesome having you on, Ryan. It was.
I could pick your brain for hours.
Oh
Yeah.
man, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
we should do this again, or either on or off the air. But I'm happy to hang out, but not with Daisy's keyboard. I'm not going to get him anywhere near
it's
technology.
And don't bring your keyboard anywhere near it either.
No, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna let him in my car.
Yeah, as long as I don't have a drink.
That's true.
Well,
yeah,
maybe so. Yep.
Or listen, if it has like a if you make it into a bottle or something, like a little
maybe, or maybe a sippy cup.
Yeah,
I might have some sippy cups left over.
Yeah, they make these new sippy cups that you can sit on the table and it doesn't even tip over.
Yeah,
so that's what I need.
Yeah, if you spend any time with him, outside Christopher, I would definitely not trust him.
Now I know never to let him around.
I usually wear a bib, so
Mm-hmm.
I'm usually wearing a bib. I just forgot it this time.
Yeah, I can see that.
Clearly, the keyboard was the bib. So
yeah. I want a less expensive bib next time.
Well, Mina's got her hands full because none of this may have recorded. I just wanted to say that. Right
yeah, exactly.
Probably
that is true.
Happened.
We're gonna have to recreate this with drawings. So hopefully,
exactly.
Thank you so much for coming on the show again, Ryan. And it was a pleasure just hanging out and talking with you.
Yeah, man.
My pleasure. Yeah. Well, hey, we live in the same city, so I know it's nothing is close here, but let's make a plan. I'd love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would love to come see your office, the old DTS.
Yeah.
The second you said that, I was like, man, I know exactly what that is. Yeah, I was like, I remember that.
Come on out. We've got plenty of new tools and toys.
Oh, that's awesome.
Nice.
The audio guys are way smarter at what they do than I do. I just get to sit there and enjoy the fruits of their labor. But it's a worthwhile experience. We did our test for surround sound with Top Gun Maverick. So sitting in those theater seats, and my son is 12 years old, and it's one of his favorite movies. So we just got to sit there, and our lungs rattled while we made sure the audio was dialed in.
It's one of my favorite movies.
That is a great movie to watch in there.
Especially to show off some audio. That's a pretty cool movie.
Awesome. Thanks so much, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah.
Awesome. Let's do it.
Thanks.
Looking forward to it. Thanks, guys.
All right. Bye.
That's a wrap for the Lot 1 Podcast After Show.
Huge thanks to Ryan O'Quinn for going deeper with us.
Connect with us on Instagram, TikTok at the Lot 1 Podcast. That is the LOT #1 podcast for exclusive behind the scenes content. And hey, we are always open to some questions or some listener mail. So please reach out. We want to hear from you. Also, check out Lot 1 Productions at lot1productions.com. Again, that is LOT, the #1 productions.com for the latest updates on all of our awesome projects.
Until next time, stay creative, dream big, and remember, sometimes all you got to do is trust the process and trust the force. See you next time.
Bye.